In this session, we will discuss the future of field service applications and provide insight into things to consider as you prepare to deliver your next generation of field service solutions. My name is Mike Jones. I'm the General Manager for Do It Lean, a services firm that specializes in delivering custom solutions for its customers. With me is Chris Bullock, CIO of Yak Access, the parent company of Yak Map. Today, Chris is going to share some insights into Yak Map's digital transformation efforts and focus on some of their game-changing field service technology. To get started, let me ask Chris to introduce himself and provide a quick overview of Yak Map's business.
Thanks, Mike. As you mentioned, I'm Chris Bullock, and I've been the CIO of Yak Access for about 3 years. And prior to that, I was the technology director for our previous ownership structure for about 4.5 years. So over that time, I've spent an enormous amount of hours focusing on some of the more challenging aspects of the Yak Map business. And on the surface, we appear to be a simple rental company. We rent and lease a product called access mats, and mats are used to create temporary roads for primarily pipeline and electrical transmission projects. And oftentimes these projects have to cross through fields and streams and wetlands and even through mountainous terrain. And without these temporary access roads, our customers' equipment would either get stuck or do unnecessary environmental damage to the terrain. And so Yak Mat has the largest fleet of access mats in North America. We have roughly 1 million mats spread across several hundred inventory locations in North America. And most of these locations don't have any network infrastructure or office locations. And additionally, Yak Mat moves between 300 and 500 truckloads of mats every day. So this relatively straightforward rental business becomes much more complex at this scale. And additionally, our customers range anywhere from 1 to 2 mats or 1 to 2 loads of mats on their projects up to over 10,000 truckloads of mats on some projects. And that's just to get mats delivered. Because these are rented and leased, they have to come back somewhere at the end of the project. And adding to that complexity is that we're literally building a road. So the delivery locations are changing as the project progresses. So trucks often have to be rerouted while they're in transit. And all of these reroutes can create delays for our customers that can end up being tens of thousands of dollars per hour in downtime. Adding to the complexity is that our truck drivers are not Yak Mat employees. This is done through third party. So as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. And for us to successfully pull this off, we have to capture information from our field employees, from our third-party truck drivers. We have to get that into our office employees in real time, and also get that information to our customers who are on the ground waiting for their mats to arrive. But I'll pause here. I know you're going to talk a little bit about Do It Lean's field service classification model.
Right. So thanks, Chris. Well, let me start by sharing what I'm seeing in the market. All of the leading companies are hard at work transforming their field operations to dramatically improve service levels, customer experience, and really to scale their business. This chart, which is from a recent McKinsey article, nicely summarizes the key benefits they're all trying to achieve. It's things like lower cost, increased efficiency and productivity, plus value creation in new ways for their customers, their service workers like those third-party truck drivers, and for their companies themselves. So let me share what we call our field service classification model. We use this model to help our customers decide how best to address their specific field service needs. To start, we work on understanding some key differentiators. First, we want to understand how many different data sources are involved in the field service app. Are we simply putting a front end on an existing back end package? Or do we need to orchestrate data from multiple systems? Second, is the field app focused on one user and the data they need to do their job alone? Or do we have multiple users that we need to coordinate and keep up to date on what's happening? Third, will the application need to have complex offline capabilities? Specifically, does the data have the potential to be changed while the field worker is offline, requiring complex data sync scenarios? And lastly, how many different front-end options are actually going to be needed? For example, when there are multiple parties involved, like the field worker, maybe a parts supplier who's got to bring something in, the end customer themselves, we find that we often need different types of field service front ends to support the needed user experience. We also often see that you have to have both a mobile for the guy truly in the field, but sometimes you need a web version because they're often sitting at their desk as well, but they need the same basic functionality. So sometimes we need both mobile and web versions of the same basic application. So once we sort of work with our customers and go through these differentiators, we then are able to classify the specific field service need into one of four levels. The classification or levels are really listed from the simplest to the most complex, where level 1 apps are where we have a single user, single data source, and really no offline needs. In many cases, these apps are actually provided by a vendor, like a good example is a CRM app. So if you use a Salesforce or a HubSpot or whatever, those products all come with a mobile version, which is great. Level 2 apps are slightly more complex as they need to orchestrate data from multiple systems. So these are the apps that get a lot of organizations in trouble as they look like they can be delivered quickly by taking a pre-built solution like that mobile CRM app and just extending it to have some additional data, from whatever that other system is. The reality is that this idea often ends up being way more complex than anticipated and really missing the value mark. So word of caution there. Level 3 app requirements are still single user and multiple data sources, but they have that key additional requirement as that they need complex offline support. And then last but not least, the most complex is what we call level 4 apps. And this is where we have different roles, all needing up-to-date access to the same information, regardless of where they happen to be working from at the time. Thus, these types of apps require both mobile and web front ends, complex data orchestration, and in many cases, offline needs. So, Chris, now that the stage is set, why don't you share a bit more on YakMat's journey?
Absolutely. So several years ago, we knew that we had outgrown our current systems and we were starting down the path of selecting a full-scale ERP. And as we were going through this process, we realized that an off-the-shelf ERP was not going to meet all of our requirements. And so we decided that our best approach would be to leverage the ERP for its strengths and then build custom applications on top of our ERP. And during this process is actually discovered the OutSystems platform. And we were really intrigued by the promise of low code. And we felt like that was the right long-term strategy for us. And so we partnered with Do It Lean and they helped us build YakMat Tracker. And that was essentially a front-end web interface for our ERP, some of the core areas of our ERP, and then also some additional project management capabilities that the ERP was lacking that our internal users could access. And so fast forward a couple of years after the launch of YakMat Tracker and our ERP, and we realized that to continue scaling our business and improving our customer experience, we really needed to push technology a little bit further into our field processes. And this led us to a series of field service apps that were built in the OutSystems low-code platform. And I'll share a few details about those apps on the next slides. So first of all, when we started down this path of how do we become the easiest matting company to deal with, we knew that based on feedback from our customers and our sales reps, that our number one opportunity was giving our customer project teams on the ground visibility in when two trucks would arrive. Our challenge was collecting that information. As I mentioned earlier, we're using third-party freight brokerages and everyone has a separate system for load status, some manual, some digital. we knew to give our customers the information that they needed, we were going to have to put technology in the hands of every driver who was hauling for us. And so Yak Driver is a native mobile app that is in the Apple and Google Play stores, and it's used by all third-party drivers who are delivering loads to our customer sites. And with this app, our drivers simply scan a QR code when they pick up the load at a Yak Mat yard, and it shows them the key information they need about that load. So where to deliver, the hours the site is open, the contact details. And then this provides both Yak Mat and our customers visibility into the driver's load status. The driver can update if he has unexpected delays and needs to change his ETA, he can update that and we get real-time notifications. And Yak also has the ability to even reroute trucks in transit. As I mentioned, that last mile of delivering mats to a project is often problematic for us. And so we can now send directions directly to a driver in real time once these changes are identified. So Yak Driver really allowed us to solve our underlying load status challenge and immediately get positive delivery confirmation on all of our loads. And the cool thing with the OutSystems platform is we were able to release the first version of Yak Driver in 6 weeks with a relatively small development team. I think we had about 3.5 full-time developers on the project at that time. But our journey actually didn't start with Yak Driver. We originally were trying to solve our customers' challenges. And once we started digging into the details, we realized to solve the customer challenge, we're going to have to solve load status. And so once we were able to solve the load status challenge, we were then able to really shift our focus into the bigger vision of Yak Track, which is our customer mobile app. And as I mentioned, our vision is to become the easiest matting company to deal with, hands down. And so not only did we want to answer our customers' questions of when are my mats going to get here, but we really wanted to take this opportunity to streamline every part of interacting with Yak Mat, from requesting and reviewing quotes to tracking a project, tracking load status, all the way through reconciling final invoices. And the Yak Track mobile app allows us to put all of that functionality into our customers' hands. And as we were going through this, we knew that not all of our customers are operating from a field and they're not at a project site. We knew that a lot of our important customer contacts are sitting at a desk and really would prefer not to use a mobile app. Our vision was mobile first, but one of the really cool things when we got into the project is we realized how easy it would be to the work we had done on mobile and build Yak Track Web. And so we were able to reuse almost all of the components from mobile and quickly build out Yak Track Web, giving our customers the same functionality, whether they're in the truck at a job site or sitting at their desk in the office, they can have access to the same information.
All right, so great example of an omni-channel solution built with the OutSystems platform, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks, Chris. What a great looking suite of apps. So I thought it would be appropriate now to sort of reflect back, on your journey. And I know we didn't have this classification model when we started. So perhaps I think it'd be interesting to point out that, first of all, if you only look at one field service need without considering the overall vision or use case, you'll end up with missing the mark. So, the model here is a guideline. So if we dig a bit into, Chris's journey, you told us that you built the Yak Driver app first. But the real question was, did you anticipate Yak Track app before that effort really started? And I think you did, right?
Yes, and that's, as I mentioned, that was really our original vision. Yak Driver was kind of the unexpected surprise. We knew we had issues with load status, but as we got into it, we realized that we were not going to be able to solve it without putting something in our drivers' hands.
All right. And, so when we started, did you guys really think that you would need a desktop version for Yak Track? I know it was mobile first.
Yeah, and We looked at desktop as a bonus. Really, our vision was let's put something in our customers' hands who are on the ground in the field. But as I mentioned, once we got into it, we realized it really is not going to be that difficult and that much additional work to go ahead and build out YakTrack Web. So that was kind of our aha moment where we really saw just amazing value out of the OutSystems platform.
All right. Well, guys, to summarize, you really do need to have a big picture vision as you do this type of assessment, or else you're going to, underestimate what's really needed. And Chris, I know, when you brought this project to us, we decided, hey, let's all get together. We came and met at your head office. What can you share with the audience, around this early planning? And I call it an ideation session.
Yeah. I'm actually convinced that this is where most projects are doomed from the start, especially in larger organizations. There are so many assumptions made when you have an open field of possibilities, and it often leads to unmet and unrealistic expectations with key stakeholders. And so our project benefited greatly from the agile development approach that Do It Lean follows. And then we knew going in that this was going to be a relatively large scale project for us. And so we brought in a third-party design firm to help us with mock-ups and wireframes. And our process throughout was very simple. We identified an MVP of our first phase. We designed it on paper. We built it. We launched it. And then we moved to the next phase and we did the exact same process. Many times an MVP is looked at as an isolated piece of a project. We actually applied the MVP concept throughout the entire project for each phase that we tackled.
It makes a lot of sense. So guys, if we reflect back on the different field solutions that were actually built, and think about how they individually met those differentiator questions, if you look at that chart, and you just looked at the answers for the Yak Driver app alone, you probably would have classified it as class 2, maybe class 3. But when you take into account that bigger vision, which is what's so important, we definitely ended up with a class 4 challenge, which made sure that we, had the right resources on board, et cetera. So it's important. You got to think big picture as you're planning these types of projects and understand the journey and all the people involved. So, Chris, can you tell us a little bit about some of the lessons learned?
Absolutely. There are many, but I distilled it down to these 4. And as I just mentioned, build it on paper first. You don't have to have fancy graphic design tools. Whiteboards and cheap wireframe tools are invaluable to the success of your project. This was crucial for us, and it allowed us to vet out of assumptions. And the second lesson that we took away was to start small and deliver fast. I think the keep it simple, stupid acronym should actually be changed for this context to keep it small, stupid. When you're going down the path of custom development, your goal should be putting something in your end user's hands in 6 to 8 weeks. And I know that can't always apply to every project, but that should be the mentality and the challenge for the team is how can we put something in our users' hands as quick as humanly possible. Yeah. And the third lesson is to really know your role as an internal organization on a project like this, especially if you're working with outsourced development like we were with Do It Lean. They have incredible designers, incredible developers, but they don't know your business like you do. And custom development projects, it is an absolute must to have that subject matter expertise intricately involved in every step of the project. If you don't have someone from your organization involved on calls with the development team on a daily basis, you're missing opportunities to correct and adjust things on the fly. Like we mentioned, the benefit of the OutSystems platform is rapid development, but that cuts both ways. You can develop great things really fast, but you can also go off course really far in 6 to 8 weeks. So it's crucial that you have someone from your organization intricately involved in the entire project. And finally, design is so critical. And especially when we talk about mobile field service, we can't design field service apps the way we design apps for information workers. Many of the users for field service apps are not digital natives. They may use a few apps, but they are not using advanced apps, and they're using technology as a mean to an end. And they often see apps as a hindrance to their work. And so for us, we learn to consider the small details. Things like, where is this driver or this person going to be when they're using your app? For us, the driver was a big realization for us. We ended up having to increase font and button sizes so many times as early in our project, we got feedback that I can't read what's on the screen, or my screen's too small for this. And so it's really, really important. The OutSystems platform allows you to build beautiful apps easily. It takes that part out with the templates. Instead of focusing your effort there, since OutSystems has already really given you a great starting point, focus your effort, your design effort on the user journey and how the user is going to be interacting with your app. And for us, those small tweaks ended up having an enormous impact on our final user adoption.
No, the great insights, Chris. I think for our listeners today, if you're starting on this journey, write these 4 things down. They will serve you well. So guys, before we let Chris go, I thought I'd ask one last question. You know, what's the future of field service for the folks there at Yak Mat and Yak Access?
So we've always got some new idea cooking. And obviously we can't share everything we've got on the drawing board, but one of the really cool things that we're excited about is we're starting to look at how can we further optimize our logistics and inventory supply chain. And so that's going to be a big focus for us in 21. And also Yak Access is more than just Yak Mat. We have some service-based businesses who actually do provide the service of installing and removing temporary roads using mats. And during 21, we are actually focusing on several digital transformation initiatives in our service-based businesses. And we'll be leveraging the work we've already done in the OutSystems platform for Yak Mat and repurposing a lot of those tools for these organizations.
All right, very cool. So guys, I know we're almost out of time. Chris, thank you for sharing the Yak Mat story. To conclude, let me summarize with 3 quick recommendations. You know, first, take a good look at your field service technology needs based on the 4 differentiators we outlined. Second, using the assessment model, figure out, you know, what level you're after. That'll help you figure out how you're going to move forward. And then last but not least, if you have to build an application, I highly recommend you take a look at OutSystems low-code platform. It'll help you deliver an amazing user experience, build your apps really fast, and be able to change even faster. So with that said, if you have any additional questions for Chris or I, you know, feel free to send me an email. My address is there, and I'll get with Chris and get you an answer back ASAP. Of course, if you'd like to learn more about OutSystems and how DoItLean can help you accelerate your digital transformation efforts, feel free to reach out by sending an email to me or visit our website at doitlean.com. Thank you.